You are listening to a Sustainable World Radio podcast. Sustainable World Radio brings you in-depth interviews, news, and commentary about exciting, creative, and innovative ways of living. Produced in Santa Barbara, California, Sustainable World focuses on positive solutions to environmental challenges, solutions that adhere to the permaculture ethics, earth care, people care, fair share. Are you interested in learning more about permaculture projects around the globe, how to plant a food forest, restorative design, or ethnobotany? Then stay tuned to Sustainable World Radio. I'm Jill Cloutier. Julious Piti started his interview with his definition of permaculture.
Permaculture is production without destruction. There are many definitions that I'm fond of. Like the other one is the simplest, which says permanent and then culture. Assume that there are two words there, which means this culture that can be maintained permanently and you add value in it forever and ever, and it suits anyone.
Julious Piti is using permaculture to heal both land and community in Africa.
Actually, permaculture was part of my life without knowing the word. Through the jungle place that I was living in Manica, Mozambique, in the place called Magurungwa, which my father was also a crowhead or part of the chiefdom. And we grew up as a hunter, and my father loved plants, and he used to use plants to treat us when we were sick, and he would tell us how they treat us and the animals around us, chickens and so on. And when I came to Zimbabwe and I was learning at a certain school, and at home I was doing some kind of agriculture, then one of my friends came there and said, "Wow, how come that you are growing something and it's winter, it's so dry, and yours is green here?" Then I said, "Wow," because I was putting this kind of manure and organic stuff down here and so on. Then later on, it happens that another friend came from Harare called John Wilson. He also visited that place through the other friends, German friends, Eli and Uli. And when he arrived, he said, "Wow, this is what we are looking for." Then I said, "Oh, have you ever heard about permaculture?" Then I said, I don't know. Then he says, "Oh, there is a training center." He started explaining about Bill Morrison and other things. Then I said, "Oh, well, I'll be interested to participate on that as a career, because anyway, it looks like it's in my inborn kind of spiritual being."
Originally from Mozambique, Julius fled his country as a teenager and relocated to Zimbabwe. It was there in Chikukwa and now in his work in Chasiyama that Julius, along with other community members, has created a Permachikuru, or living school of permaculture.
So without permaculture, the community was like scratched hard drive with a lot of information though, and everybody knows that the information is there. But it's a little bit useless, because if it's a music, you can't play it right, because then it jumps and so on. So as we blended with permaculture was able to access all this information, putting it together in a nice way, in the level where everybody can understand. We saw the community coming together, and we couldn't believe that we were leading that program, because what happened was amazing and very powerful.
20 years ago, the Chikukwa area suffered from severe land degradation, drought, deforestation, and soil erosion.
Our actually challenges were a lot of soil erosion due to the new agricultural way of farming that was taught to the community from the industrialization, which was calling for cutting all the trees and clean all the fields. When the water is flowing from the mountains going down, it will take the topsoil, which is lighter and which has nutrients for growing food, down the slope and create gullies. So the land becomes poor and poor as the subsoil get exposed every year. The water, one day, it actually come from this higher mountain, and below here is the spring. And it was washing down that spring, and through erosion, the water was not coming out anymore. Then we thought we could do some kind of spiritual ceremonies to make the water come back. It didn't work. We thought of putting some rocks around. It didn't work again. until we were actually taught how to really put those rocks correctly and use vetiver, and planted some indigenous trees and other trees to reactivate the forest. They were actually taking the vetiver on top of the mountain, planting, and we were also making some swales to harvest the water so that the water doesn't run away from the land, but it infiltrates down into the ground and feed by force of gravity into our springs. And at the same time, giving enough moisture to make our plants grow in our fields.
And this is vetiver grass?
Yeah, this is vetiver grass. The vetiver grass has got multiple use, like thatching houses, and you can actually use the roots for making good perfume. As long as the leaves up here is as long as the roots down here, and it can hold loose soils or whatever and really make good terraces. And the vetiver grass, you can actually weave it into hedge. It is one of these miracle grass which is drought resistant. You can use it as a pioneer plant where the soil is completely dry. You can actually plant vetiver grass, and it can actually help to bring the microclimate and make the original seeds start growing.
That's amazing. I think I have vetiver upstairs in a little bottle.
Wow.
The oil. That's interesting. I didn't know. I respect it even more now.
It is. True. That's wonderful. And it's lovely. We have got several kind of medicinal plants like that also from our indigenous kind of and other exotic plants that we actually created in Chikukwa. And when you are walking in Chikukwa, it's like you are walking in a library of information.
Well, what's very interesting, too, is that the spring, what I was reading, was drying up, or maybe it was already dried up, and actually you brought those springs back.
Yeah, that's true. And this made everybody happy. Actually, it was the birth of Chikukwa Ecological Land Trust.
The Chikukwa Ecological Land Trust is a village permaculture project and successful training center. With two main focuses, permaculture and building constructive community relations, the project has had a profoundly beneficial effect on the Chikukwa community.
Before CELUCT begins its work, there has been a lot of monoculture. That was the growing of probably one type of crop, and this crop was mainly maize, and the other winter crop was being grown was peas. Let me tell you a terrific story about peas. The peas were grown from a company called Lemico. They would give the Chikukwa people the seeds and the inputs, and you are told to pay after harvest. Now, it happened that it was so visible that the farmers were working for nothing, actually working for these big companies, because the last years people were, suppose you invest for a season, and this company will tell them that after bringing your piece, you still have got a credit of more than 3 times as much as the piece that you have sent to them. That means the credit was asking for them to sell their cattle and other things in order to pay for the work that they have worked for that big company. So it was quite sad. And there are also problems of the pine trees that are planted over the large kind of place. So one day, you can imagine that if you plant a large portion of pine trees, the wild animal in there, they don't have food now because they are looking at the pine trees. So the baboons were not able to get these indigenous fruits. So they were starting to eat the pine trees as their food. So these Anglo-American and kind of multiple national company guys become very angry because then it's a threat to their income. They look for a very poisonous kind of medicine which they put on the maize and throw it around to kill the baboons. Then when these baboons were killed, they actually get into water because then it will be very hot for them. So when they try to bath themselves in the water, they die, and eventually they rot in the water, and people drink the water. Then you can imagine the chain, who is killing who there. Also, there are some birds, like chickens. We call them guinea-fowl also. So one day this guy was moving in the forest. He saw this guinea-fowl moving, and he was a hunter of his. He just thought, oh, he has just got a prey. And then he just slapped it and took it home. He was preparing this meal, what happens was that as they were trying to eat, all of them, the women and the men, they all bleeded in their nose straight away. And the husband eventually died, and the wife remained. So these were some of the problems that were actually growing in the community, and people were weaving this problem into social problems as well, because then it spreads into HIV and AIDS, because when you don't get food, you find other methods of getting food, and you become promiscuous, selling yourself to get money. And some men will actually run away from home, going to settle to other towns, like going to Mozambique or going to South Africa, and leave your family alone. So there were vast problems, social problems that were felt in, and mainly women and children were affected by these problems, and this was a real threat to our future. And good luck, there were these wise old people who worked with us, including the Permaculture project. When we started with the Chikukwa Ecological Land Community Trust, it started from farmer to farmer training. We started by just working at a certain garden with one farmer. And after that, this other farmer is teaching the other farmer, and we are collecting a bunch of farmers, traveling, looking at what has been done, and spreading like that slowly. This was a very powerful instrument, because even when we started, some other very educated people would say, wow, what are you doing? Can these guys with no education do something? But we saw that as they were accessing their knowledge, they knew their environment and they knew what is missing. And by working together with them, encouraging them, they were able to express their feeling and love to the soil through permaculture. And slowly, that's when CELUCT started, a Chikukwa Ecological Land Use Community Trust. That is a trust that was locally grassroots formulated, and it was legally registered in 2006 after operating for a while with visible example in the community.
And you started, I believe, was it 1991?
Yes, we started 1991 as a self-help group, home-to-home kind of service, giving each other some advices. And we were not only doing just gardening, we did a lot of things like visiting old ambuyas, and we would give them maybe firewood, or sweep their rooms, or repair their house, or we will put them together. They tell us these old knowledge stories, the parables. And these stories in our culture, they are very important if you want to tap wisdom from the elders. You talk to them, give them time, they tell you what they think, what they saw. So they told us the old stories of Chikukwa and the wisdom of the old people. They told us about the stories of sacred forests, where you go with some beer brewed, you actually talk to the gods to make the rain come back again. And these sacred forests, even today, they are being respected. You cannot go there and cut a tree. And in one way or the other, you will see that when they were respecting this forest, they're actually telling you that it's a dam of water, because when it is raining, all this water is being harvested by this kind of thick forest. At the end of the day, this dam will feed in all the springs and give water to the whole family. So, in a way, all the stories that were being told by these old people, the elders, it looks like sometimes you would say, wow, this cannot happen. You put beer there and it's raining. But then it has other kind of meaning behind that. And if you think a little bit more than just listening to beer bringing water, you will see that it has got a very rich meaning in our tradition.
And what I really liked about the project is that you really use the community to teach other community members. Could you tell us about that and how that worked?
Definitely, it is one of our strengths, and we are very proud of that. What we did was to identify the natural permaculturalist. We would walk around, and then we see, oh, this person likes few 3-4 trees near his house. Then we would start by exchanging these two groups, and they start discussing and the use of these trees and why they left these trees. And then we would organize a kind of workshop. And instead of us teaching, we would ask this other traditional healer to tell the other people the use of this other tree, the way how it heals the people, and why does he look after that plant. As they start explaining, they become proud and they see the value of their knowledge. By so doing, we started from the known to the unknown. So it was kind of brought the project ownership to the community. At the same time, definitely they are the owners, because whatever is done with this project, permaculture project, is targeted to empower the community so that the community at the end of the day is sustainable. So through that, it was like not cracking the farmers' heads, because it was not like from reading. It was the other farmer there who was telling the other farmer. And our job there, actually, it was just facilitating and making. We were calling ourselves facilitators, not permaculture teachers anymore, because we identified that we are not teaching anybody there. Actually, we are learning on how communities can use their own or access their own wisdom to solve their immediate problems. Because when the farmer stays on the land, they become related to the land so much that they communicate with the air and the plants and the water, the soil and everything. So if you tell them what they would want to do to change their own environment, they actually have those answers. Maybe they don't have the words to say there, but they know. So with permaculture, we use that as a technology to access that wisdom, to make it into play. And together we move as CELUCT with the elders there. The chief Chikukwa was also he played a pivotal role. You need very strong leaders who can help you and let you get to the next stage. So Chief Chikukwa was very good, and his wife.
It seems like part of the transition in your area in Chikukwa was the transition from cash crops to more sustainable agriculture. What was that transition like? Because I do believe that that's going to have to start happening more worldwide. Was that a hard transition, and how did you go about that?
That transition came into being when we were actually having some permaculture lessons, which actually has got some bit of agriculture economics. Not the economics of financial economics only, but the soil and the time that you spend growing some annual crops that give you one type of meal, and you still want to buy other things elsewhere to eat. For example, you would like to buy fruits and all that. That made the people to realize what they need to make their meal per day. And therefore, they saw the need of planting other horticultural projects and fruits. For example, if people plant a lot of avocados, bananas, you don't shift the land too much. Therefore, you conserve it, and you are actually creating a very good water cycle within the soil and creating these barriers that are good for predators to hide in. And at the same time, you are creating very good air for your land, shade, windbreak, and all those benefits. Then people started to analyze and see, wow, these are all the benefits that we were losing because we wanted to grow maybe maize alone. And therefore, they would need to go to ask their sons to give them money to go and buy some relish somewhere else again. Yet they have got the land where they can grow the relish, they can grow vegetables so that they can use as kind of part of their food. So, and also even animal, kind of like cattle and goats, chickens, and so on. We saw that being more integrated within the permaculture kind of approach as they help to link each other to support the whole. So that's how people got this shift. It's true that people were using a lot of monoculture, but with permaculture, it's pretty easy once people has got the knowledge. They can actually perform wonders. So we saw that through the project, the people were able to stay in their land. They were able to see what to do in order to keep their land, and also how to farm to support their people, and how to now take a step further to create a training center where the whole nation would come and find themselves a nest and share with the community. And then the Chikukwa people spread a lot of that skill over Zimbabwe. And going through to Mozambique, South Africa. The South African Minister of Agriculture came there with 70 people, the big bus. And people from Malawi also visited Chikukwa. From DRC, people visited Chikukwa. To mention a few from Europe and America, other good friends also came there to help documenting the story of Chikukwa. And now it has actually grown a step further. Now, from one village, it has bred itself into a project called Tsuro Zechimanimani. This Tsuro has got coverage of about 180 villages like Chikukwa. You can imagine how big it is. Because it's as big as that, it employs quite a few people who are moving around, starting projects and so on, spreading the project as an effect of the peace found in Chikukwa and spreading. However, we are actually thinking that in order to share more to the whole world, maybe we have to start walking around talking about Chikukwa like what we are doing today. And also invite people from far away to come and visit and see, so that they can write their own story. Because now I'm talking because I was there. But if you will come home, you also see the other angle that I never explained. And it can be explained to the other part of the world. And it might be the key, missing key to make things speed up, to save our own planet and the world through all this climate problem that we are facing at the moment.
Yes, and if you could share with us too, I think you're known for being a permaculture designer and teacher, and also as an expert conflict facilitator. And part of what I really enjoyed reading about Chikukwa was the conflict resolution and the 3 circles of knowledge, which you've kind of touched on. But if you could explain that to people who may not know anything about it.
Oh, wow. I'm honored to explain that one because it's quite powerful. I hope I will be able to put my right words there. The 3 circles of knowledge is just the 3 circles that intersect: analytic knowledge, and the indigenous knowledge, and the spiritual knowledge that is weaved together. And at the intersection where it intersects, it is the common ground where we should see our life and perception on projects and people to solve problems. If we are there, that means we are able to generally fit in every situation to facilitate positive changes. So the first circle is the indigenous circle or knowledge. The indigenous knowledge tells us that anywhere where you are, there are some cultural systems that are something to do with the land, the people around, the history, and what people believe at that moment. So if you are working with a project or if you are facing a conflict, make sure that you use that indigenous knowledge system. What do they do if a problem arises? These people, suppose you are facilitating something. Once you are able to tap enough from the indigenous knowledge, then, for example, at our place in Chikukwa, the indigenous knowledge will be, if you go to the chief, there is a problem, you will ask the chief and he asks his advisors to come and really interview you, and after that, the chief will tell you whether you are wrong or not, for example. Or if you want to, if the rainfall is not coming very well, it's not raining very well, they will make the beer and go to under a tree and then talk to the spirits, right? That indigenous knowledge makes the people to feel at home and to be ready to do other things, to accomplish the task. So it is very important, whether you don't believe it or you believe it, it works for any community that you want to work with. And if you don't believe what they believe, then you cannot work with them. This is very difficult. So that is one circle. And then the second one is the spiritual knowledge. The spiritual knowledge is the feeling the God in oneself. Because when you say spiritual knowledge, people might think about somebody who is very far away. No, it's the God within yourself. So this spiritual knowledge, kind of knowledge that deals with your head as a person. We have got the subconscious and the conscious. If you use your inner wisdom, the wisdom that is within you, you can tap in your subconscious and see what is realistic to apply and to look into yourself a little bit critically as well. And then we have got the inner teacher. And if we use that one from our heart, the inner wisdom, the inner warrior, to apply it to make changes with our honest love, then things work. Then the analytical knowledge, it is the most important kind of circle where everybody goes and they acquire knowledge from universities and whatever. That one is simple. So it is also important to analyze situations so that you know you are not treating the symptom. Because a lot of people spend a lot of money donating money to treat the effects of a problem. That's why problems are never ending, because we are not able to find the root cause of the problem. 3 circles of knowledge actually go further to solve some problems of youth problems in schools, child abuse, home violence, and political problems. So in Chikukwa, for us, we managed to have some conferences with the very big political parties, sitting them together, put them together, talking about the mindset and so on, spiritual wisdom and so on. At the end of the day, these guys are very good friends. They see that, it's just a different perception. And when you go deeper to the ingredients of conflicts, you will see that there are lots of them, like cultural values, makes lots of conflicts. Like, for example, some people would like, at our center, some people wanted to have their church goers, a lot of them. Then the other guys said, we want to make our beer here to make everything okay, something like that. Then it becomes conflict that way. So there are many, many, many ingredients of conflicts that we are supposed to watch. And when you go through the 3 circles of knowledge, then you will see from our example that, in our African setup, there are a lot of ingredients of kind of conflicts that needs to be watched at if you want to work with the community or if you want to bring permanent and sustainable kind of transformation to empower the community itself. For 3 circles of knowledge, it was quite a learning point for us, actually, and we are so happy that we are starting to share that now over the world, and we hope we will be able to talk to many people and they will come into our model and see how they can also replicate it to their own living environment. Information needs to be passed on. It's 2 ways. It's all about learning, and we can all grow together. All of us, we are very useful to exchange our knowledge in order for us to save this mother planet. Otherwise, we are going to perish. Nobody can do it alone. Neither Chikukwa can do it alone. We only can do it when we are together, and that's where we are going.
Now you are working, it sounds that you've started another program, PORET. Could you tell our listeners about that?
Yeah, PORET was the birth of the permaculture experiences that I actually acquired by working with CELUCT. And after working with CELUCT that way, we went to have our own home 150 kilometers away from our project site where I and my wife was living. So because we are passionate with plants and so on, we ended up creating another food forest there. So it is very dry place, and the people there, they could peep through and see, what makes this place so different? So they were always coming there. When I'm there as well, they will come and ask and so on, until now we were able to share some plants and so on and share the skills, and people started to see some results. Then it happens that there was this competition by the National Environmental Program in Zimbabwe, and they used our project as part of the competition for the country to see who are doing the environmental projects that can help the community in the future. And we happened to win the first prize. And when we won the first prize, for me, I was completely shocked, because then when they announced that, they came with these government officials and other NGOs. They set some tents and brought all these furnitures, and I didn't know what to say there. And the community was there, and wow. And the chief, Jinga, was sitting next to me, and the minister is talking there. Wow, it was something big. Wow, from there, with me and all the fellow members that we were actually doing the project together, it was a new look for us. We were not expecting to have those kinds. So we did the registration for PORET, and of course, we were not rushing to look for funding and so on, because that was not our aim. Our aim was just to do what we could do. Then we continued, that was 2006. We continued working. We are just doing it as usual. And the community are realizing that there are some actually potentials coming out of that, and we actually need to really restructure it, and perhaps to have some people who permanently run the day-to-day activity of PORET, because the activities are intensifying. And in the recent days, there is this forest. A friend of mine works with the research of the Institute about Permaculture in Zimbabwe, visited us. And he said, wow, I want to count all these trees. Then he was counting, and then he went to measure the organic content on the ground. He was measuring this about 7 points. He take all this organic stuff, put them on a square meter, 1 square meter there, 1 square meter there, and taking them, weighing them on a sensitive balance and make an average. You know what we got there? We got something like 4 kg of organic stuff per square meter. And over that whole, about 1 hectare or something, we got something like 17 tons of organic matters that were created by that small plot. And it was completely like shock. And I've got the report and maybe put it on the website of PORET for people to share. And he counted all these fruit trees around, and we calculated them in monetary term. Wow, it's something. Now I am here to meet friends, to also talk part of my story to my friends, Wes and Marge, and to visit other friends as well, so that with that story, we can share with the rest of the world. And those who are interested to come and see or to come and support, at the end of the day, they will know what they are supporting. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Congratulations on that. That's 2 wins, the first prize and also the organic matter in the soil. It's fantastic.
True. Actually, I was shocked because I had to walk in the field again and say, really? Really? But when it is analyzed and data is well collected and documented, and you read again, you see a new angle of what you are doing. So that's why I am calling to those who are interested to come down there and see the whole story about PORET, CELUCT, Tsuro, and other projects, Rishawan Water Project, so that each one of us who visit there will write that story with their own words. And those stories might actually help us as the project owners there in Zimbabwe. At the same time, it helps to conscientize our partner or those people who might have potential to assist. I know there are people who are passionate about environment and to save the world. Sometimes they actually don't know where to put their money. So we need to communicate with them and seek their 3 circle of knowledge as well to see where exactly they would like to invest in this world if we want to save the world. So it is such a wonderful opportunity for me to speak right here in Santa Barbara to the rest of the world about the big vision and big goal of the whole world, an opportunity that we can actually save the whole world and bring peace to the whole world using permaculture.
Julius, that was a great call to action for people. If someone wanted to get a hold of you and wanted to contact you and maybe come visit, how could they find you?
If someone wants to visit us, you will open PORET website. You will get the directions and the map on the Google that can also show you the direction. At the same time, you can email me on Julious Piti at ymail.com or juliouspiti@yahoo.com.
And that's JULIOUSPITI at yahoo.com or ymail.com.
Exactly. So the ymail.com will be the most appropriate because it doesn't have other stuff. So I will find you easier on the ymail.
I've interviewed Brad Lancaster a couple of times on Sustainable World, and he speaks very highly of Mr. Piri, who is also from Zimbabwe. And I'm wondering if you know of him and his work.
Yeah, Mr. Piri, I know him. He is quite a charisma man who, when speaking, all the words will stick in your head and you cannot even think of taking notes on the book. So when you arrive at Mr. Piri's place, you will see these rocks on the top part of his landscape. And these big rocks harvest rainwater. As it drops down right at his homesteads, he harvests this water into pits. And as he takes this water into the pits, it infiltrates down to something like a gully, where he actually took some soil and shaped a dam, some dams, series of dams. Now, this water is infiltrating into creating these fish ponds, and the fish ponds has got some gardens around that because there is water that was harvested as a result of the water harvesting system that has been actually constructed. And you see these green reeds actually planted along with bananas and other trees, and you see his donkeys tethered around there, and he has got a donkey pump, water pump, where the donkey will graze and at the same time pump water for part of his garden. He has got an amazing project, and those are one of those projects that we say, if you have got time, please visit Zimbabwe and see some of those examples that are existing. And through Brad Lancaster's book, it was possible that people are able to know about Mr. Piri. And the more writers will publish that information so that it can be read on famous kind of documentations, newspaper, and so on, and radios, the better we are going to save our world using such kind of nice projects like Mr. Piri Maseko.
Thank you so much. And you're going to be also traveling, it sounds like, in California and New York, the Northwestern Permaculture Convergence. You're on a whirlwind.
Yeah, it's exciting. Actually, it gives me room to take out the pressure of wanting to share. So it is such a nice space for me. And also, it is like with my eyes and my feelings, I already identified people whom I was supposed to have met long back. And these other people, I meet them, it's like I knew them before. So it has got a lot of purpose. Maybe I don't know what they will do to comprehend or to support in permaculture. But in one way, they are related to me completely. But I have never seen them. I don't know this place. Maybe I wake up one day, I see this mountain. I knew this mountain, but I have never been there. So it is a miracle to me to be here, and at the same time, a very, very big pleasure. When I was with Lynn at his home, I was saying, wow, am I dreaming that I'm in an hour? Wow, that was actually excellent, and it's still giving me very good feelings.
Well, you're definitely an earthling, so probably the earth is your home.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel at home wherever. I cannot complain. I thought it was going to be very strange to eat this kind of food that I have never eaten, and forgetting all this sadza and that we eat in Zimbabwe. But now, wow, my friend Lynn was saying, can you not buy this meal and we prepare you your home field or food or whatever? Then I said, wow, no, let me do what the Romans does. And it's still working with me. I'm quite satisfied.
I know you look really happy.
Definitely, I am. I am.
So lovely. So lastly, I just want to close with something that just popped in my head.
Okay.
In the States right now, a lot of people are undergoing hard times. The economy is kind of tanked. And some people feel very hopeless and frustrated, and they feel like they don't have enough money and things are hard. Do you have any advice for people or anything that you could tell them, anything you want to say to people that may be listening, and not necessarily only in the U.S., but worldwide?
Yeah, true. I'll be proud to share this Chikukwa story. I told you about the devaluation of dollar, but the Chikukwa people were still happy. So the solution is to make sure that we have a love and love our own environment and use some of the 3 circles of knowledge, use permaculture approach. That if you read it or learn about permaculture and you follow it, it will be in line with your spiritual knowledge. And it will actually solve the unrest. Actually, the permaculture project as a whole, as we talk about it right now, and as others are doing it, if it is adapted by everybody, it will really bring peace all over the world. I tell you, it will bring peace all over the world. Start it from your small garden, where all elements are interconnected. Then you create peace. From there, you are happy. You get enough food. From there, you give it to your neighbors. From there, you can sell it to our local market, organic stuff. From there, and so on. So we can actually bring peace through permaculture. So I advise you to go and find the next teacher or to attend some of our presentations. There are a few training centers already here, Permaculture Network there, and the Paris Spring Training Center over that side, and so on. We wish you very good luck with those training centers and networks. Please let us fetch from that cup of knowledge and feed ourselves and let ourselves be happy.
Thank you so much.
Welcome indeed. It's my pleasure.
After our interview, I asked Julius to sing a song that I had seen him perform at his presentation. And we ran and got Margie and Wes of the Santa Barbara Permaculture Network for backup. And here it is.
Hiya, pemaya kanaka, hiya, pemaya kanaka, hiya, ya, 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 hiya, pemaya kanaka, hiya, pemaya kanaka, hiya, pemaya kanaka, hiya, ya, 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 hiya.
What was that? What does that song mean, Julius?
The song is saying permaculture is so gorgeous because then it is the solution of humankind problems through managing natural resources that harmonize the environment and the people's spirit and animal spirit together. Hiya, 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 ya, 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 hiya.
There you go. You've been listening to a Sustainable World Radio podcast. For more information or to hear our other podcasts or interviews, visit www.sustainableworldradio.com. Sustainable World Radio is produced by Jill Cloutier. Music by Dana Lyons. Thanks for listening.